Hello and welcome to the Dream Team Professor podcast. My name is Scott and in this episode we're going to be looking at the top players to target in Game Week 25 Sun Dream Team. Now as always, I'm going to start off with the fixture ticker from ffstuff.co.uk. We have a 2 p.m. deadline on Saturday the 24th of February, so a bit later than we're used to, and there's actually quite a few games kicking off. So first kickoffs are going to be Villa versus Forest, Brighton versus Everton, Palace versus Burnley, and United versus Fulham. So we could potentially get leaks from a number of different teams on this occasion, rather than just like the Man City or Liverpool like last few deadlines. And something a bit more interesting, we're going to attempt the first ever deadline stream. So on Saturday, around sort of 12:30, 1 p.m, once I can figure out how to actually do the live, I'll be sort of answering your transfer questions if anyone's got any. So do check that out on YouTube. And I might have a special guest holding my hand potentially. We'll find out. I'll announce it nearer the time. But it's a double game week in Game Week 25 on Dream Team. So we've got Premier League and FA Cup action, as well as the Carabao Cup final in the case of Liverpool and Chelsea. So double game week, Game Week 25. On the fixture ticker from FF Stuff, I've ticked the teams that have a double game week if you're watching on YouTube. But if you're not, I'm going to read them out anyway. Manchester City face Bournemouth and Luton away from home. Manchester United have a home match against Fulham and an away match against Nottingham Forest. That fixture we could potentially get leaks for. Liverpool, they have the Carabao Cup final, and then in the FA Cup they face Southampton at home. Newcastle have an away double. They have Arsenal in the Premier League and then Blackburn in the FA Cup. Chelsea, of course, have the Carabao Cup final and then Leeds at home in the FA Cup. Brighton, Everton at home, Wolves away. FA Cup is the Wolves game. We could potentially get leaks in that one. So Wolves and Brighton could be popular this week. Good fixtures. And of course, Wolves play Sheffield United at home and then Brighton in the FA Cup. Forest, probably not so popular on Dream Team. Villa away, United at home in the FA Cup. And then Bournemouth, they have a home double of Manchester City and then Leicester in the FA Cup. So these are the sort of main teams that I'm going to be covering. Arsenal and Villa I'll also cover in this episode. They only have single game weeks this week, but I still think there's players that we will want to target from them. West Ham, I'm going to go on to fixture volume, but I'm not really going to cover West Ham. So they have 5 fixtures. They don't have an FA Cup game this week, but their form has been pretty poor. It's Brentford at home, and then following on from that, they will have the Europa League coming up. But I'll come on to fixture volume now. So fixture volume for the next 3 weeks: Game Week 25, Game Week 26, Game Week 27. 2 teams have maximum fixtures. So 6 fixtures, 3 double game weeks in a row. That is Liverpool. So they've got the Carabao Cup final against Chelsea and Southampton in the FA Cup, which we just mentioned. They then have Nottingham Forest away, and then the first leg of their Europa League knockout match. That's sort of still to be confirmed. The draw for the Europa League takes place tomorrow. So I'm filming this on Thursday. The draw takes place on Friday. So we will know who everyone's is going to be playing in Game Week 26 tomorrow. So if you check back, I'm sure this will be updated pretty quick, and Dream Team usually update the app fairly quick. So Liverpool maximum fixtures. After that, Game Week 26, Man City at home, and then the second leg of the Europa League. So 6 fixtures for Liverpool. The other team with 6 fixtures in 3 weeks is Brighton. So like I said, FA Cup, Premier League this week, and they look pretty good as well. Everton home, Wolves away. Game Week 26 could be good. We still don't know the fixture for the Europe, but Fulham away from home, and then Europe. Game Week 27, Forest at home, followed by Europe. So Brighton do look like for the next 3 weeks they could be a really good one to target with these maximum fixtures. So that's the 2 teams with 6 fixtures in 3 weeks. The teams with 5 fixtures. Now you've got Manchester City with 5 fixtures, obviously Premier League and FA Cup. Then the following week, Game Week 26, they have a home Premier League fixture against Man United, followed by that second leg at home against Copenhagen. And then in game week 27, it's just a single game week, and that's Liverpool away from home. So 5 fixtures for City. They're still looking pretty good for fixture volume. Aston Villa, so no FA Cup this week, but they have the single against Forest, which looks pretty good if you've got your eyes on Ollie Watkins potentially, just scored a brace. And then the following week for Aston Villa, they have Luton away and a Europa League conference match, which game week 26 is looking very appealing. Game week 27 is Spurs at home, and then the second leg. So I think Villa, we're going to... I'm personally myself, I'm starting to think about how I might want to get Ollie Watkins in my team. And Villa were a good team to target when they were playing in Europe. Emery has a really good record in Europe, and I think they will probably go quite far. West Ham, I mentioned I'm not going to cover them in this episode just because of their bad form, but I've ticked them here. They do have 5 fixtures in these next 3 game weeks, so they do have a lot of games coming up, but their form has been pretty poor. We're sort of waiting for Paqueta to come back. I think that's sort of holding the key to them playing well at the moment. So I'll see how they get on in Brentford, again in the Brentford game in this single, and if they look like they've improved, then maybe we can look to target them in the next episode next week. Bournemouth, not one that we'd normally target, but 5 fixtures for Bournemouth. They have a double against City and Leicester this week, followed by a single against Burnley, which looks pretty good, Burnley away. And then game week 27, that really nice looking double game week of Sheffield United at home and Luton at home. So Solanke might be on people's radar for that game week 27, or even earlier if you're potentially looking at that Burnley match. The Man City Leicester one I'm not too sure about, but Solanke could be a really good option. I'm not going to do a whole slide on Bournemouth in this episode, but definitely Solanke could be one to watch for this period. Extra fixtures, and some of the fixtures do look really good. Onto the teams with 4 fixtures now, and there's quite a few of them. Arsenal are the real main one that I'd be looking to target still. So no FA Cup this week, so it is just a single, and it's against Newcastle, which is a tough game. But then the fixtures still look pretty good. So Sheffield United in game week 26, although it's a single at the minute, the way Sheffield United are playing, it's basically a double anyway. And then that's followed up in game week 27 by Brentford at home and then FC Porto, which is going to be a must-win game for Arsenal now. But we'll move on to them later. So I think that Arsenal are still going to be one that we're going to want to target. The defence looks really good, and obviously Saka's in great form. The other teams that do have 4 fixtures, they have FA Cup, but they don't have Europe. So Newcastle, FA Cup, Blackburn, Chelsea, they've got FA Cup and Carabao Cup still, so it's Leeds and Liverpool. Wolves, FA Cup, but obviously no Europe. Forest, FA Cup, and Luton, FA Cup, but I'm not sure how long these 2 will still be in it. So if you're looking to maximise fixtures, Liverpool, Brighton, but the teams with 5, City, Villa, West Ham, and Bournemouth still look okay, with a little bit of Arsenal thrown in. Now, fixture volume, that's done. The double game weeks for game week 25, that's done. But we're going to look a little bit further, all the way up until game week 29. So I've done 25, 26, 27. Obviously, I wanted to mention that if you do only look at the app and you don't look at sites like ffstuff.co.uk, you are not going to see the full picture. You're not going to see that in game week 26. Actually, it's not just Man City that have got a double. It's Liverpool, it's Villa, it's Brighton, it's West Ham, and the same goes in game week 27. So do check this out. Honestly, it's really helpful. But tomorrow, once we have had the Europa League conference draws, it all should start to look a little bit more clear. The only thing that will also need to be added, game week 28 is when the next round of the FA Cup will land. So this could cause a few difficulties. So you might look at this and think, okay, game week 28, that looks good for certain teams, but there's going to be a lot of postponed fixtures in that game week. For example, Arsenal are scheduled to play Chelsea in game week 28. If Chelsea beat Leeds in the FA Cup and go through to the next round, that game against Arsenal will be postponed. Arsenal will then have a blank in game week 28. So if you've loaded up on 2 Arsenal defenders or Saka, you're going to have a problem just for that game week 28. So it's just something to consider or have in the back of your mind. this game week 28 isn't quite set in stone yet. We'll have more information after game week 25 ends, because this FA Cup round is just one leg. There's no replays. There are some exceptions though. For example, West Ham and Aston Villa are scheduled to play each other. Both teams are out of the FA Cup, so that game is definitely going to go ahead. But yeah, that's in a nutshell. Game week 28 might be a little bit volatile. And game week 26, game week 27 could potentially be good times to play boosters, maybe like park the bus. Nice double game weeks potentially once we see what the Europa League fixtures will be like. Game week 29 as well. It's a double game week in the Premier League, so you might want to keep an eye out on that one, potentially if you're sort of planning to do park the bus. But for any of these, you're probably going to want to see the draws sooner, because it will make things a little bit easier. For example, if Arsenal, you might think that you want to do Arsenal for park the bus in game week 29, but then if they have a blank in 28, it's going to make it a little bit more complicated. So best off waiting until this game week's out of the way. But I thought it would be useful to share with you anyway. If you found that useful, please do leave a like. Leave a comment below as well. Let us know that you're watching. Let us know how your game week's gone so far. But we're going to go on to Liverpool to start with those maximum 6 fixtures. Now, it's been a dramatic game week for Liverpool. I did do my match day recap where I talked about the recent matches that have happened, all the top point scorers. So you can either check that out after this video, or you can go check it out now. But Liverpool have picked up a lot of injuries recently. So maximum fixtures, but we haven't really got the full squad to choose from now. So Diogo Jota is now injured for 2 months with a knee injury. Alisson is also out. I think that was a hamstring or thigh injury. End of March, I think they're saying. We've also got Trent, who's out injured, likely to miss the final, possibly a couple games after. And even Núñez and Salah. So Salah's come back, but then Núñez and Salah both weren't in the squad yesterday to face Luton. And we're going to be asking questions of whether they'll be able to make the final or not. They'll be assessed, the quote was, they'll be assessed on a day-by-day basis. And both will be late fitness tests. I can't see Klopp giving us more information before the final, letting us know who's fit to start and who isn't. It doesn't make sense from sort of a competitive point of view. So he's probably going to keep that to himself, which means we're probably going to have to make this move on best guesses. I'm currently leaning towards removing Núñez and maybe leaving Salah another week, but it could be risky to do. Especially if both end up starting in this cup final. So I think this is going to be a case of just wait until as late as possible before making a decision, but maybe have a couple of ideas in mind what you might want to do in each scenario. So I'm going to talk about the guys that we know are available, because it's kind of pointless discussing Salah and Núñez at the minute, even though Salah did come back with a bang, goal and an assist. But can I mention Luis Diaz first? 3.8 million. Started both games this game week. Got 90 minutes and an assist against Brentford. And then in the second match, 89 minutes, 3 bonus, a goal, 3 shots on target, 2 tackles, and 14 points in total against Luton. He's looked much more clinical recently. That's one of the things that I wasn't so keen on him when he first come back from injury. But he's returned now in each of his last 5 matches with 3 goals and 3 assists in 5. So very, very impressive, Diaz. And I think it's probably safe to say you know that he's going to be starting the final, playing off the left-hand side. There's one less player in Jota. Obviously, Núñez can play that side, but I think Diaz has got that left-hand side down. Salah's obviously the right-hand side, and then it's kind of Gakpo and Darwin for the centre spot now. So I think Diaz is a safe pick now. I'd expect him to be starting 2 a week. He's on 10 goals, 6 assists for the season, and started the last 5. So I do think that Diaz is a decent option if you're thinking about maybe moving to a Liverpool player that's a bit more safe and injury-free at the moment. Cody Gakpo deserves a shout-out because he's come in because of these injuries and done a ridiculously good job. So 3.2 million. I've never been keen on him, to be honest, because he plays less minutes than the others. but he's been impressive when he's called upon. So 10 points against Brentford in 45 minutes, coming off the bench with a goal and an assist. And then 12 points against Luton with 1 goal, 4 shots on target, 2 tackles. He's on 11 goals and 5 assists for the season, and Liverpool are scoring goals all over the pitch at the moment. They've got a lot of goal scorers. The only thing I don't like about it is it does feel like a placeholder. You kind of know if Nunes is 100% fit, if Salah's 100% fit, it probably is going to be Diaz, Nunes, Salah, and Gakpo's probably going to be picking up the FA Cup matches, maybe the Europa League. It isn't really nailed for every match, usually. So that is one thing to consider. It probably is a transfer out eventually, but for the moment, it does look like a good option. Then we're going to go to the defence. So I think it's fair to say I probably made a mistake this week with my transfers. I went for Robertson. I was really keen on his attacking upside. I did think there was a bit of a risk when it come to would he get 2 starts or not. And it was kind of, for me, it was between going for Virgil van Dijk, the safe, nailed for 2 matches player, or going for Robertson in the hope for bonus points, which he'd been doing well for, and attacking returns. Turned out Virgil van Dijk was the winner this week, and probably that was a mistake on my part, but he got 4 points against Brentford, hit the crossbar from a Robertson corner, so it could have been okay. 10 points and a goal, 2 shots on target against Luton. He is such a threat from corners, but unfortunately the corner that he did score from was in the match where Robertson started on the bench. He had McAllister taking corners in this match, where Robertson actually was taking a lot of corners in that first match against Brentford. So Virgil van Dijk had a really great week, played both. He's on 20 bonus now, 5 average points, 3 goals, 2 assists, and he's the 8th overall defender on the game. Couple question marks I've got. I mean, he's as nailed as it comes when it comes to Liverpool. The only few question marks I've got is he's obviously going to play the final. Will he still play the FA Cup game against Southampton if he plays the final? They have got a bit of depth at the back. So I'm not 100% sure he plays twice this week. And then the other question is whether or not he'll play all of the Europa League matches. I can see you looking at the ticker now on the screen. It goes game week 26, it's that Europa League match, and then it's followed up by City at home, which is a massive game in the title race, and then it's followed by another Europa League match. So maybe there's a chance he plays Forest, misses the first leg of Europa League, then plays City, nice and fresh for City, and then depending how the first leg goes, maybe he plays, maybe he doesn't. I might be overthinking it, but not feeling as confident that he's always going to get 2 matches a week from now on. Robertson, 3.4 million. So the guy that I brought in, he got 5 points against Brentford and a start, and he looked pretty good, I thought. And then he got benched for the Luton game. Gomez played at left back, but he did come on in the second half and grabbed an assist, which was a bonus. I'm confident that he does play the final, but I must say I'm not so confident that he's going to play 2 games a week now. I didn't expect that Gomez would come in at left back. I kind of thought that maybe Gomez and Bradley now rotate on the right, and Robertson and Tsimikas might rotate on the left. But in fact, Bradley got 2 starts, Robertson got 1, and Bradley is so impressive. So 3 points in that first game, 5 points in the second. He had a shot on target in both of them, and he just seems to get forward quite well. He tucks inside and makes these runs into the box. Really does look like a player. He got tackle points and a big chance created against Luton as well. So still looks like Virgil is the best option, but Robertson and Bradley still look fairly dangerous. McAllister, someone that I wouldn't be bringing in, to be honest with you. 3.2 million, but he deserves highlighting. Got 2 assists against Luton, 3 bonus points, and he got a goal against Brentford in the game before that as well. So 3 attacking returns in these 2 games. Shared corners with Robertson once Robertson was on the pitch, and they shared corners right and left side in the Brentford match. The only thing that is worth looking at with McAllister is all season he's been playing a little bit deeper, but because of all the injuries they've got at the minute with Szoboszlai, Curtis Jones, there's a few others that are not coming to me straight away, but They started Gravenberch and Endo's always the sort of deepest one. But this seemed to allow McAllister to get forward a little bit more. And we know from when he played at Brighton, he is a good attacking threat. So it was just something to look at, something to consider. He was impressive this week, but I just don't think I'll be targeting him yet. On to Brighton, another team that have got the maximum fixtures over the next 3 game weeks. 3 double game weeks. It's Everton at home, Wolves away, Fulham away, Europa League, Nottingham Forest at home, and the second Europa League game. So they are looking on fairly good form, and the fixtures do look quite nice. They're high scoring. In the last 5, they put 5 past Sheffield United twice, and then they scored 4 against Palace as well. So really are flowing attack-wise. The Premier League games look winnable, but there is always a risk of rotation with De Zerbi, as I found out. Pascal Gross, 4 million. Just about the only player that seems like he could be safe from rotation. He's played the most minutes out of any Brighton player. 390 minutes more than Dunk across all competitions, and Dunk is the second highest for minutes. So as Gross is as nailed as they come at Brighton. He's up to the 4th highest midfielder in the game now. Got 12 points, maximum bonus, an assist, a shot on target, and 2 big chances created against Sheffield United in a ridiculous performance. If you're watching on YouTube, I've got his sort of match centre report up on the screen. That 5 bonus points came from 9 successful crosses, which he's on corners, set pieces, and even penalties now that João Pedro is unavailable. So he looks like an all-round threat and someone that I'm seriously interested in getting into my team ASAP, but especially for this run of maximum fixtures. 2 more attacking players. We had, last thing on Pascal Gross, 36 bonus points, 5 goals and 12 assists, which is very impressive. Matoma, 3.5. 115 points in total, got 2 assists against Sheffield United, and he's on 3 goals, 8 assists. Could be an option back now that they've got Europa League. And Adingra on the other side, 3.2 million, pretty much on the same amount of points, 114, 2 goals, 15 points against Sheffield United, 7 goals, 3 assists. So 2 really good attacking players there that you could potentially choose from to fill your midfield. I still am preferring Gross. He's more expensive, but I just think that Adingra and Matoma are going to be relying on getting attacking returns each week, where I just kind of feel like with Pascal Gross, he can get you bonus. He's on penalties. He's got a ridiculous amount of tackles as well. Performs really well for tackles. He just seems like a perfect all-rounder that you can just leave there and do well for points. So, like I said, I'm really interested in him. If you're interested in a defender from Brighton, which I'm currently not, I've got a Stupinian, and that's been an absolute flop. We'll talk about that later. Don't bring a Stupinian in. Dunk and Van Heck, probably the best options. I think Van Heck's performing a bit better and is a bit cheaper. So they're your options, really, the best bets. But I don't really fancy it, to be honest. Man City, 5 fixtures. So an away double, Bournemouth Luton. Home double, United FC Copenhagen. And then a single in 27 away at Liverpool. So less fixtures than Liverpool Brighton, but still back-to-back doubles. Kevin De Bruyne was rested for the Brentford game. Obviously played the Chelsea match. And the quote was, De Bruyne has niggles in his hamstring, but it's all good, he's fine. I just didn't want to take any risk with him. He's okay. He just told doctors he wasn't feeling 100% and we didn't want to risk anything. So in a week that's been filled with injuries, we've got one extra thing to worry about. KDB's potential hamstring issues. Doesn't sound too serious, but it also doesn't fill me with hope that he's going to be playing each match in a double game week. I think we're probably going to see him start one, bench one. It's not the end of the world if he comes off the bench. He's done it plenty of times and got attacking returns, but it's just a little bit worrying is all. The only real injuries for City are Vardiol and Grealish at the moment, for now. Haaland, I'm going to start off with him. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on him because it's just Haaland. We've all got him. We all know how good he is. 96% capped in the top 1K. Blanked against Chelsea. even though he racked up his highest XG in a game without scoring for City. But he did eventually score a goal against Brentford, 11 points, and he had 4 shots on target in that one. So 96% capped in the top 1K. Could he potentially get rested for this Luton away match? Maybe plays Bournemouth. There's a chance, I guess. But would you go against him for the armband? That is going to be one of the main questions from now to the end of the season. Will you go against Haaland? I have a feeling a few people might try it. This FA Cup double game week, I mean, there's maybe a chance that he misses Luton through rotation, and we will come on to some people that we do think are nailed for 2, so maybe there could be some captaincy picks that do go against the grain, but it does take a bit of bottle. KDB and Foden, again, I feel like we shouldn't keep going on about these players every week. Obviously there's those injury concerns about KDB, but I think I'll probably keep him. I expect he probably just plays 1 match. Foden, he's started now 12 matches in a row, second highest scoring player on the game. I just wonder, having played 12 in a row, maybe he's one of these ones that gets a rest. But then if KDB and maybe Haaland still need to be sort of kept fit, maybe Foden is needed. But 12 matches in a row is a lot of games. Maybe there is one coming up for Foden. But either way, KDB, Foden, Haaland, I think most people should and have got them in their teams already. Someone that not everyone's got, but he is a popular pick, Alvarez at 4.3. He started every single Premier League match this season for Man City, which was a stat that I didn't actually know until earlier this week. 13 goals, 11 assists. He could make a good Jota or Núñez replacement if you're thinking of taking them out this week. Takes set pieces when KDB isn't on the pitch. He's got 42 shots on target from 32 matches, so all action. Alvarez has frustrated at times, but overall he is having a decent season. I think he could be a decent option this week in this double. Rodri, 3.7, 7th goal of the season against Chelsea, coming in clutch with that equaliser. Started both matches, got 12 points, goal, 3 bonus points against Chelsea, and then just a 4 points against Brentford. So again, I'm never really going to fault a Rodri pick. Steady points from Rodri. Doku, probably a little bit disappointing this week. Started Chelsea, got 5 points. I think Gusto overall dealt with him pretty well. And then he got a sub-appearance against Brentford, just the 1 point. But I feel like this could be a good double game week for Doku. So Bournemouth away, Luton away. If you remember back to the Doku haul, he hauled against Bournemouth in the reverse fixture, getting 21 points against them. 3 bonus, 1 goal, 4 assists, a shot on target, a big chance created, and 2 tackles in a 6-1 win. Was benched for the game against Brentford, so maybe he could be fresh to haul again against Bournemouth. So he could be an exciting pick for this week. If you're thinking about going for someone a little bit more out there on the City side of things, I think Doku could be good. Defensively, it was a clean sheet against Brentford. Could be frustrating for some because it was one that Ake wasn't included in, and that is the downside about Manchester City with the rotation. Even when they do eventually get an assist, a clean sheet, there is a chance you miss it. Akanji, Walker and Diaz started both games last week, so they would have picked up the clean sheet, but also got the start in the other matches. Ake and Stones both just got the 1 game each in this game week. So as an Ake owner, I wasn't best pleased about that one. I also missed, I think, a Man City clean sheet with Vardiol being benched just a couple of weeks ago as well. So it can be a frustrating time with these City defenders, but I did have Ederson in goal and caught both of them as well. So Ederson is a good option. But Ederson, although he got 12 points for the game week, it's very likely that, well, extremely likely that he's not going to play the FA Cup. Ortega usually plays the FA Cup. If you are picking a defender from City, I think you probably just take your pick from Walker, Diaz or Ake and just accept that you are going to get the occasional bench in. It's been 5 starts in a row for Diaz now. But then I fell into that trap. Ake had 6 starts in a row. I brought him in. He's had a benching. I think Gvardiol had been on a ridiculous run of starts as well. I brought him in. He was benched and then injured after that. So I think it's safe to say if you go for Walker, Diaz and Ake, they're probably the solid picks, but you will get a benching at some point, unless you're really lucky. On to Manchester United. Now, less options to go for from these, but they do have a really exciting one to go for this week. One that, if the Dream Team page is accurate, is in the top transferred in players this game week, and it is Rasmus Højlund, 3.8 million. But before we come into that, the fixtures: Fulham at home, Forest away. Now, Fulham have one of the worst away records in the Prem. They're second bottom for away points, and they've conceded 26 goals in 12 matches. Now, couple that also with João Palhinha not being available through suspension, it does seem like that Fulham game could potentially be a really good one to target. Forest, their form hasn't been perfect, but I do think they look like they're improving. With the win against West Ham, and I think they put up a really good match against Newcastle recently as well, so I don't think that match in the FA Cup will be a walk in the park. So a nice double this week, but the only thing, if you are going for a Rasmus Højlund or a Garnacho or a Bruno Fernandes for a 1 week punt, I think it really is a 1 week punt because game week 26 is a single against Man City away, and then game week 27 is a single against Everton at home, when you could be going for Europa League players that double in 26 and 27, or a Champions League side in Arsenal or City that will have a double in at least one of those weeks. So that is the downside of going for a Man United player, but Højlund does look very appealing. If you're in a position to take a punt, I'd say. I can't see myself doing it, but I know it's one I'm going to have FOMO over. Got brace against Luton, 9 returns in 6 matches, 7 goals and 2 assists in that last 6 matches. So a really, really good performance from him over the last few. If you're watching on YouTube, I've got the Who Scored fixtures on screen, and you can just see the run that he's been on. Had a goal against Aston Villa in the 3-2 win. Didn't score against Wigan, but then he got a goal and an assist against Tottenham. He got a goal against Newport. He got a goal and an assist against Wolves. He got a goal against West Ham, a goal against Villa, and 2 goals against Luton. So this man is on fire. The only downside is that you probably would want to move him on after this week. And we've seen a lot of times on Dream Team this season, it looks good in principle to say you're going to have someone for a double game week and then move them on, but injuries are coming up all over the place, so there's a chance you can get stuck with these players playing once a week. Garnacho, 3.5 million, grabbed an assist and 8 points in the last game, 2 goals, 1 assist in his last 3, and 7 goals, 4 assists for the season. I do like it as an option, but I just think there's better ones to go for. I'd be more keen to go for the Brighton players, I think, or even a Luis Diaz, when you know that they've got 7 fixtures versus Manchester United's 4, or 6 fixtures versus Man United's 4. Bruno Fernandes, again, frustrated me all season this year. Someone that I've always had in my Dream Team lately. But he has been consistent. So he's never scored more than 5 points in his last 5 matches. And he's averaging 5.5 points per game, which isn't bad at all. I just think he's just been underwhelming compared to the standards that we've had for him previously. But definitely plays twice in game week 25. And we know he's on pens. But I won't be going there. Again, just a quick reminder, if you are enjoying the video, please do help the channel out by leaving a like and subscribe if you're not already. If you're listening on podcast platforms, please do give us a follow on there as well. Reminder, Saturday, around sort of 12:31, I'll be going live. So subscribe so you don't miss that. But also check out the Dream Team Tonic podcast. We do a live stream every week to our Patreon members, and then it goes out a couple of days later, public on YouTube and the other podcast platforms. Check that one out. link in the description below. Newcastle. So they will be playing my team, Arsenal, in the first game of their double game week, gameweek 25. I don't fancy them for this fixture at all. That's not my bias. I just think that Newcastle have been a little bit leaky at the back, not been at their best. Arsenal, until yesterday, have been really impressive. I don't think that fixture looks great, but the Blackburn fixture, that could be interesting. 16th in the Championship, not having a good season. That could be one to target. And we've seen that they don't really rotate too much, Newcastle, when it comes to the FA Cup. So the likes of Trippier, Gordon, I expect to play. But same as United, if you do go for it this week, it is just followed up by singles. Game week 26, it's Wolves at home. Game week 27, it's Chelsea away. So you do get a lack of fixtures. But for someone like Trippier, who does score so well in singles, I don't think that's the end of the world. Only 2 points against Bournemouth for him, so he's going to get a price drop. But I'd be surprised if people are selling Trippier ahead of Arsenal away and Blackburn away. I don't think that they'll get a clean sheet against Arsenal. But we have seen from Trippier in these matches, he's a busy player. He gets tackles, he's on all the set pieces. He can still score well even without the clean sheet. I've even considered him as my Estupinian replacement. He's still a top defender, he's the top defender, and he's got an average of 5.8. His last clean sheet, though, was in game week 21, which was a while ago now. He got 9 points in that one, but since then, he scored 2 points in the most recent game, 5 points before that, and 9 points and 6 points in games where Newcastle conceded multiple goals. So he still scores really well without the clean sheets. So if he does get a clean sheet, he hauls. 11 assists, 1 goal. The only other player that I'm really going to mention, Bruno Guimaraes, I'd avoid him. He's on 9 yellow cards. The 10th one gets you a 2-match ban. Doesn't really feel worth it for me, but he has been good. Anthony Gordon, 3.6 million, 8 goals, 9 assists. Scored a penalty in the last game. His 5.2 average is impressive. But again, I think I would rather... He's playing striker as well, without Isak and Wilson there. But I still just think I'd prefer to go for a team with more fixtures. Like Wolves and Brighton. And we'll come on to Wolves now. So very nice fixtures this week. A home double against Sheffield United at home and Brighton. And Sheffield United's poor defence is the main reason why everyone's banging on about Wolves this week. Because Sheffield United have been so poor. 65 goals conceded. They're the worst defence in the league. They've conceded 5 goals 5 times this season. Be funny if they kept a clean sheet though, wouldn't it, against Wolves after all that. But Wolves' recent form is good. Newcastle and Fulham are the 2 single game weeks that they'll have after that. 26 is Newcastle away, Fulham is 27 at home. So they're not the worst doubles if you do end up having to keep one of these 2 players that I mentioned. So Pedro Neto, 3.4 million midfielder. He's got 3 goals and 13 assists. 25 bonus from 19 games. So performing well for assists, smashing it when it comes to bonus. I think Wolves apparently have slapped an £80 million price tag on him today. That's steep, isn't it? But 6.2 average, 2 goals, 2 assists in his last 5. I do think he is a really good option. I do think that he'll do well this week. And the only thing that would probably stop me from choosing Pedro Neto would be Hwang Hee-chan. I prefer him. He's on Dream Team as a striker though, so if you're already set up front, then Neto's probably your guy. But I have a feeling that Hwang will do better. 11 goals, 3 assists for the season. You obviously score more points for the goals than the assists. Doesn't have the bonus that Neto has. He's played the bulk of his matches at centre forward, but can play off the left and right. I expect he'll play centre forward. His last 2 matches before the Asia Cup were a 7-pointer with an assist and 2 shots on target, and a 13-pointer with 2 goals. But he did blank last week against Spurs. did miss a real big chance in that game though. I've got him in my FPL team, and I was gutted that he missed that big chance. I think it might have been offside in the end anyway, but I just think that he has the bigger upside than Neto. If you were going to tell me, if you were going to say who do you think maybe is more likely to return, maybe Neto, or maybe, but if it was who's more likely to really haul, I think it could be Chan with a brace or penalty goal or something. So I like Chan more, but I do think Neto is a really good pick. The only thing that I wasn't really aware of, but I saw it online, is a lot of talk online that potentially Sarabia could be penalty taker. Hwang took a penalty earlier in the season. He's always taken penalties and been pretty decent at penalties. But took a penalty earlier in the season, but apparently Sarabia wasn't on. And apparently Sarabia's never missed a penalty and takes a lot of pens. And Sarabia wasn't on the pitch when Hwang scored. And then when Hwang was at the Asia Cup, Sarabia took a penalty and scored it. So maybe there is a slight chance that Sarabia could be on pens, but I still think Hwang's the guy. Chelsea, so they have hit a little bit of form. 2 wins against Villa and Palace, and then a draw against City in their last 3. That draw against City was a really good performance. They could have scored more. City kind of rescued it at the end. Carabao Cup final against Liverpool is going to be a big test. And I actually think Chelsea could do it, you know. With all these injuries for Liverpool, I think Chelsea are going to be on a little bit of a high. I think that's going to be a really, really good cup final. And then the FA Cup match against Leeds is at home. But Leeds are unbeaten in 11 games. I wouldn't look at it as a championship match. It's going to be easy. Leeds are unbeaten in 11, and they drew one of those matches. So that could be a tough test. The only person I'm really going to mention massively is Cole Palmer in a lot of our teams still. The question is, keep or sell. I'll be keeping, as I've got other fires. But I don't think it's an immediate sell. I think this double game week is fine. I think he'll probably play both or start both. He's got good average points, 6.5, 194 points in total. And he's the 5th highest mid for points. On penalties, 12 goals, 11 assists. So if you are stuck holding Palmer, don't think it's the end of the world. But I think I'm going to want to get rid for game week 26 and game week 27. Sterling impressed against City, 10 points, goal against his old club, 3 shots on target, but I do think there are better options than Sterling. He didn't start the 2 games before that either. Gusto was impressive, 9 points, 8 tackles in that game against City, but that was kind of down to a sort of big battle between Doku and Gusto, and I think Gusto pretty much come out on top. Maybe he gets a similar sort of game against Diaz with a lot of tackles, but I just don't see it someone that we'd want to target long term. Gallagher has done well recently, decent form, 17 points and 11 in his last 3. So double figures twice in his last 3, but I'm just not convinced that that's sustainable and it's going to continue. So for me, it's just whether or not you keep Palmer or sell him. On to Arsenal. So just the single game week for Arsenal against Newcastle at home. Obviously off the back of a really disappointing loss against Porto. It was a pretty dull game. The ball wasn't in play very much. You've seen stats about that. Loads of fouls. Really sort of disrupted game, but Porto played it pretty perfectly. I think at the end of the day, both teams looked happy to take a draw. But Porto, with a wonder strike at the end, grabbed it. So it's all to do in the second leg. Arsenal-Newcastle. So Arsenal lost, obviously, to Newcastle earlier in the season. Corruption. But I do expect them to bounce back in this one. Newcastle's defence has been poor. Arsenal's attack has, in general, been good before yesterday. But yeah, I wouldn't let this week's single against Newcastle put you off choosing the Arsenal players that you might want for 26 and 27. So in my case, I've got Saka already. But I wouldn't really be looking to move off Saka because you're going to want him for Sheffield United in the single in 26, I think. And then in 27, Brentford at home, FC Porto at home, double game week. You're going to want Saka for that. And even when it comes to defence as well, Sheffield United, again, looks good. double home fixture looks good. I saw a stat that in the previous fixtures against Porto, where we've played them at home, we've had a lot of clean sheets. They've not scored in quite a few games in a row against us. So I think you're going to want to hold your Arsenal or even get Arsenal in place ready for this. I don't think that's a bad shout. So Saka 5.7, highest scoring player on the game. 8.2 points per game is massive. 37 points from 32 games. So I'm going to be keeping him in. Before Porto, he'd scored or assisted in 5 matches on the bounce with back-to-back braces. And Dan Burn has been getting absolutely rinsed in recent matches. I fear for him in this match up against Saka unless they change something. So Saka versus a dodgy Dan Burn could be a recipe for points for Saka. I'd consider not taking him out if you're thinking of doing it. And then Sheffield United, like I've said, kind of a double game week in one fixture potentially. Arsenal defence, they were very close to making it 3 clean sheets in a row. So 6-0 against Burnley, 5-0 against 6-0 against West Ham, 5-0 against Burnley. It was almost a 0-0 of Porto up until that last minute. So I think there'll be a few disappointed people with that. I was obviously really disappointed that Arsenal lost it, but it did help my rank out slightly. One thing to consider with this, so Arsenal less fixtures than Liverpool or City at the minute. But I thought, I've been trying to work out whether it's worth to have just a nailed 90-minute, no worry Arsenal defender or sort of like a City defender. And I looked from game week 20 to game week 24. Arsenal played 6 matches, City played 8. So City played 2 more matches than Arsenal. Saliba started 6, all 6. Gabriel started all 6. Walker from City also started 6. Ake and Diaz started 7. So it really isn't that much in it. It might look like extra games. It might look like 2 extra games, but it may not be as big of a deal as we think. I think it's making me think a little bit that maybe I should just go for Arsenal because their defence does look pretty shored up. Aston Villa next. This is a quick one. Forest at home, single game week. But I do think that looks like a really good single game week as it goes. Game week 26, Luton, and then to be confirmed Europa League conference, and then Spurs to be confirmed second leg. So I think that this is going to be a good run to get Ollie Watkins back in. He's just banged a brace. He's on 15 goals, 14 assists for the season, 38 shots on target from 33 matches. Puts him 6th for total shots on target. Just in really, really good form. You know he's got haul potential. He's done it multiple times already this season. And you just know that he's guaranteed to start in Europe. Emery takes this competition really, really seriously and has a really good record in it. So I'm thinking potentially about if you've got a Jota or a Nunes, for example, do you just go early? Do you just go early, get Ollie Watkins in before that sort of double game week of Luton, and then whoever gets chucked in to those European matches? I do think that could potentially be a decent option as well, rather than maybe go to a Gakpo and then maybe move back or looking elsewhere. I do think we know that Ollie Watkins is a decent option. Right, team update time. So 108 points for the game week. Overall, I'm a little bit disappointed with that. My team feels like it's falling apart a little bit at the minute. So I've dropped down again. Every time I sort of make progress, I seem to fall down again at the minute. I dropped from 275 last week down to 381. My team, back to front. Ederson in goal with 12 points. Stupinian still in there with his 1-pointer. Ake, 5 points. Obviously, only started the one of the 2 fixtures and didn't start the game that City kept a clean sheet in. Robertson, do you know what? I'm happy with 9 points. I'm okay with 9 points. The only bit that makes me a little bit less happy is the fact that that Virgil van Dijk scored a header and outscored him, to be honest with you. But it is what it is. If you offered me 9 points, I think I probably would have taken it. Cole Palmer 2 points. That City fixture was a tough fixture. There was always a chance that that could happen. 18 points for Saka, smashed it. Phil Foden with 10. Again, that's decent. And De Bruyne only played the one, but finished on 8 points. Captaincy was Haaland. I didn't have the bottle to go against him this week. Probably could have. Saka could have got me 36 points, for example. But I'll take the 30. I don't like taking that kind of risk. Jota, though, so disappointing. It was looking so promising. He was putting in such a good performance, but picked up this long-term injury. So Jota is going to have to go. And then Núñez, 7 points. Cheeky little chip. It was all looking so great. And then I ended up losing both my strikers first half of the first game of the game week. So not very good on the injury front. Jota injured. Núñez a doubt. De Bruyne's having niggles in his hamstring. And Estupinian is just dropping 1-pointers all over the place. And I can't get him out. Yeah, it's terrible. What shall I do? Well, this rank drop, 275 down to 381. I think most of the damage was done by Arsenal defence, keeping that clean sheet. Maybe should I have gone that route instead of Robertson? Could have been probably a better shout. I was happy with the Robertson points, but obviously Virgil outscored him, and my pick was between Robertson and Virgil, so ultimately I probably made a bad pick between the two. I did know that Virgil was going to be more nailed than Robertson, but I did think there was a chance that Robertson started twice. Jota, Núñez have to go, and then Estupinian is my other problem at the minute. I'm happy just to keep De Bruyne. I didn't think that one sounded too serious. So, plenty of things that need fixing, mostly Estupinian, Jota for sure, and then question mark over Núñez, it looks like. So, what should we do about it? So Jota's completely got to go. There's no getting around that one. But then Núñez or Estupinian is going to be... It shouldn't be a question. It should just be Estupinian out. But it depends what updates we hear. My plan was always to get Salah back in. Obviously that got delayed last season because I had 2 injuries at the back. I think it was Trent and Vardiol last week. This week, more injuries. I think everything is going to come down to what news that we get, if any. So if we hear that Núñez is absolutely fine and he's probably going to start the EFA Cup, I'd keep him in. But I just don't think Klopp's going to give us that info. The same with Salah. If I knew Salah was fit and available, I wouldn't hesitate to bring him in. But we don't know if he's going to be in. They both missed the squad for the last game. So that's what is causing me a bit of trouble at the minute. Estupinian, as much as I'd want him out, part of me is thinking a little bit. He is going to be one of the first kickoffs of the game week. Maybe there's a chance we get team news and find out if he's starting or if he's not. Even if he is starting, I'm not confident that he starts 2. So yeah, these are my dilemmas sort of out loud at the minute. If it was who I could bring in or who I want to bring in an ideal world, I'd like to bring in Gross and Salah, Pascal Gross and Salah, but I'd obviously have to do that for... I'm in a 3-4-3, so I'd have to do this for 2 strikers or a midfielder. It could have been maybe Palmer for Gross or Jota to Gross and then changing Núñez to Salah and sticking with Estupinian for 1 more week. But if Núñez turns out to be okay, then I think it probably makes sense to keep Núñez, get Jota out, get Estupinian fixed, because he's just lingering in this side. So how do I play it? I wouldn't mind Ollie Watkins, actually, either. Pascal Gross and Watkins. If Salah ended up being a doubt, I'd be happy to get Watkins in now and then look to get Salah in later. I think Haaland, Watkins, Salah as a front 3 would be perfect. I've got a team value of 50.2 million and 6.9 million in the bank. So money isn't really a problem at the moment. I've sort of worked it out a few different ways and I can get the players that I want to get. So that's not an issue. The issue is just what moves to make when at the moment. I think it has to be Estupinian out. But it's a tough decision Also, who to replace him in. I've wanted him out for so long. I haven't even thought about who I want to get in for him. So my options, let's just say Nunes is fit to play the final. And the logical thing to do is Jota out, Estupiñán out. Who will I replace these two with? If Salah's fit, Salah's in. Nunes, Salah, Haaland, front three. Replace Estupiñán. I don't, with this whole debacle with Estupiñán, I don't want to chase fixtures with defenders anymore, I've decided. I've got Ederson, Ake, Robertson. I think they all look pretty solid. They're in the best teams, the best defences. I'm missing an Arsenal defender, potentially, but they don't have a double this week. Saliba or Gabriel would probably go quite nicely in that Estupiñán spot, even though it is a single. But we know that they play every match, like I just mentioned. I don't think Trippier is a bad option. Double game week, Arsenal's not great. But then he has Blackburn in the FA Cup, which I think he'll play. There's chances of attacking returns, bonus. He's nailed. So could get an extra fixture out of Trippier, and he's not a bad hold at all for singles. So Arsenal defender, maybe Trippier for an extra fixture, or Virgil van Dijk. Maximum fixtures you'd like to think. It's just, like I said, whether or not he plays FA Cup or Europe. Maybe there's some Liverpool fans listening. Let me know if you think that Virgil's going to play every Europa League match and all the FA Cup matches, but he's going to have a rest at some point, I feel. So they are my options. I haven't quite decided. Obviously, I can't really lock it in yet. It's going to come right down to the wire. It's probably going to come down to the live stream to kind of wait for these leaks or later news. I think we should have some press conferences tomorrow. But these are the decisions that I'm sort of weighing up at the minute. Let me know what you think you would do with this team. I'm happy to get some feedback. I imagine most of you are going to say get Estupiñán out at the minute. I'm already getting a lot of people on Twitter telling me get him out. But yeah, it all just depends on what is happening with these other injuries. So at the moment, I think it's probably going to be Jota and Estupiñán out. But that does mean probably no Pascal Gross this week, which is a shame. I would like to get him straight in my team. Maybe I'll have to wait for another week. As always, if you've got any Dream Team questions, just drop a comment below. Let us know how you got on this week. Let us know what transfers you're making. Hopefully you haven't got a Estupiñán to take out of your teams. Please do leave a like and subscribe if you've enjoyed it. Do check out the Dream Team Tonic podcast. And I'll see you maybe on Saturday. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Goodbye.